You, Lindsay F from the Ridgefield Park Young People's Group in Ridgefield Park, New Jersey.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Lindsay.
It's good to be here. This is an awesome space. I didn't realize it was this new, but an awesome space, an awesome format. I really love that Alcoholics Anonymous is now, it's like customary and kind of becoming the new normal to have hybrid meetings. Because what a perfect time. Once I give birth, I'm going to just still be able to make meetings. Like, how lucky am I? You know, whereas before, you have to do the balance of bring the baby to the meeting or miss the meeting. And I don't even have to be faced with that type of pressure, worry, you know, and because Zoom works. It worked when COVID-19, you know, when we were all quarantined. It's a blessing and it's beautiful that we can be together again. But I'm so grateful that we've at least evolved, you know, and of course, the miracle, when the whole country is falling apart, Alcoholics Anonymous is always like the saving grace of mankind, evolving and continuing to carry this life-saving, life-altering grace, right? This magic that takes the most sick, demented, disturbed people on the planet and transforms them into like lovers of each other and lovers of God. You know what I mean? So if nobody can convince me that magic isn't real because I've experienced it, and this program is magical to me, right? That is literally what it's allowed me to do. It's allowed me to step out of the bounds of all the rules I live by in life, in the world, in society, and opinions, and me. And it allowed me to step into wonderland, in a sense, where I ascribe to these principles that are so much easier than all the other stuff, right? All the list of demands and the list of pressure that I know how to live with in the world, and allowed me a really simple way to experience an amazing life that I literally didn't earn, right? It's freely given, you know? So I'm grateful and happy to be here, and I'm happy to see what you guys are doing. And I wish the meeting a lot of success and a lot of attendance and a lot of, you know, carrying the message. My sobriety date is February 2nd, 2006. My home group is Ridgefield Park, Young People's Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. We meet on Tuesday nights, same thing. We have a hybrid meeting. So we're on Zoom, so it's accessible if you live, you know, around here and it's kind of far. Or if you're up in Bergen County on a Tuesday night, 8:30 p.m. We have 2 meetings, an open speaker beginners meeting and a big book study discussion meeting at the same time. We have 2 separate rooms in the church. We too had to move our church, but it just all works out to the greater good, and we still have our Zoom meeting going. So it's been great. If you're ever in Bergen County on a Tuesday, you'll find one familiar face there at least, and we'd be happy to have you. Let's see. Before I tell you what it was like and what happened, I just want to give some credit to what it's like now, because sometimes I forget, right? Like I've run out of time, you know, and I just need to say, anything that I could ever really share is experience, strength, and hope that's a true testament to this program, I'll forget to share, because it's not really something I could say with my words or pinpoint. It's literally the things that I don't count, I don't say, I don't expect credit for, the way that I live. The things that I don't even acknowledge, right? That's the character shift in my perception of life, in my heart, in my attitude, and in my actions. Those are the places that I do the most of the service that Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me. And I take no credit for it, so I forget, right? I don't count it. Like the little things, you know, the ways to have a deep sense of patience for a person or a process, right? I don't know how to have patience for people or have patience for their process or trust that the way that people or relationships are going to evolve are going to work out in my favor. I don't know how to do that, right? That's literally the grace of God that allows me to stand back and allow others to be who they are and allow them to go through what they're going to go through. Because my default is, let me just control the whole show. Right? Like, this isn't going right. Let me figure it out for you. You know? And then like just everything in my life, and I tell people this a lot because I'm given the opportunity to be of service, you know, with close friends or just fellows of Alcoholics Anonymous where, I get to continuously demonstrate this way of life, demonstrate the miracle. What does that mean? I was told when I got here that if I put my recovery first, the rest of my life will just fall into place. That's how I heard it. That's how it was said to me, but I heard, so I come here and then miraculously my problems get solved? Yes. The answer is yes. Right? It's my experience. Anybody I've said that to and who has followed just this program, nothing else, just this program, that's literally what happened to them. And it magically, literally falls into place. Meaning, I don't work at anything that I have, right? I didn't earn the beautiful, amazing relationships that I have in my life. They are gifts. They were given to me. I didn't earn how I earn income. It's literally just random coincidence. I've just learned how to have the character to step into a position of willingness, step into a position of courage, step into a position of, humility, right? And say yes to the work or to the assignments that God puts before me, right? So my job in this world is to just continue rising to the occasion. That's what Alcoholics Anonymous has taught me how to do. It's become who I am. I have the luxury to live this way, but it started because my life depended on it. And it still does at the core. Depends on me being willing to outgrow fear, right? And that comes with faith plus works. And not stuff that I have to make up by following directions. And like everything else in life, like I say, it's a season. Everything is a season. Each season has its set of opportunities, obstacles, right? And within that, obstacles and triumphs, in my case, right? Because I have a program. And the time that I'm in that obstacle has to do with how long is it going to take for me to surrender my will? My will continues to come back as an alcoholic. I love my will. I think it's a great idea. I think I have the best ideas, right? And I want to do things my way. I want to adult my way through it and think rationally and weigh my pros and cons and make calculated plans for everything, right? And eventually I run out of doing my will. And once again, I surrender. So cleansing my spirit through an inventory, aligning my actions and my heart with what I believe God would have me do and what my program shows me that God would have me do. And I commence to outgrow fear and I commence to outgrow self-will, right? Because I can't think my way through it or just lay it down. I don't have that power. But my program allows me to get out of my own way. I don't have to do it myself, and with each season comes those triumphs and comes the victories of like, here's another blessing. Here's another, right? The character that I get to keep. But it starts with that desperation, and my life is very full. I have a lot of people in my life, right? And I just stepping into faith, and doing that 1 year after the other. I've been able to see a lot of people have amazing recovery and just become a testament of, God's example. And to recover from this thing, like for me, it's the devil. Like alcoholism is the devil. It's the lower power. It literally destroys. Destroy isn't even a word that could pay homage to what alcoholism can do, right? Not only to the person, everybody around them, directly or indirectly. Alcoholism is powerful, untreated alcoholism. It is powerful. And unless it is arrested with a greater power, it literally just destroys. It destroys the whole world, in my opinion, right? Fixed ideas, judgments, false perceptions, criticism, hard-heartedness, competition. These are not tenets of love. So therefore, it's the opposite. And we're so blessed and so lucky that we don't have to fall victim to that ever again. And I certainly have never had to pick up a drink over it since the moment that I got here. And that's really the ultimate promise. So what it was like, I was born adopted. I was addicted at birth. My birth mother, I was adopted right away. And the reality, right? The reality of my living situation and my growing up situation is that I was given everything I could ever possibly want. I have a woman that's selfless enough to adopt a drug-addicted baby that she can't wait to love to death and spoil and raise and put me in dance class and private school, and I went to church school, and The principal of my school was also my godfather and the pastor of my church, right? So I was in a very safe community. It wasn't super orthodox or anything. I wasn't OD controlled, but it was a very safe community. Like, what more? I think of it now, becoming a parent. What a better way to put your child around people that are like family, that you know are going to love your kid, that it's wholesome, it's based on values. Everybody's friends with everybody. Everybody goes to the same church, you know. And yet, I did not have an experience of feeling safe. All the love that she wanted to pour into me, I definitely did not feel. Right? I felt the opposite, because I'm stepping into the world, and my earliest memory is the first time I'm in public, or whether it was kindergarten or whatever it was I do not feel how everybody else here looks. And then that was it. That was the fixed idea that completely separated me from being one among many. I experienced that viscerally. I do not feel how you look. What everybody else looks at each other with these eyes of wonder. They look at the teacher with eyes of acceptance. They're like, wow, I could see the trust in their body language. I could see the bond between them and their parents. And everything that everyone else did, they looked like they were experiencing and feeling something that I could not identify with. Because I felt void. I felt skepticism. Pure skepticism, right? It's in my DNA to question, what do you want from me? What's going on here? Where are we going? What's the plan? What do you want me to be? How do we get comfortable? I really don't know you. What do you want from me? Right? Skepticism, doubt, agnosticism. That's my fundamental baseline of being alive, right? That's what courses through my veins. Love was not something that I had, right? It was just that void and that emptiness and that skepticism. And so I naturally compare myself, and I'm like, whoa, we're definitely not the same. Fixed idea number one, we're separate. So therefore, I'm not even going to try to be like any of the rest of you people, and I really don't care. But I have to blend in enough to get away with whatever I need to do. Because with that emptiness and with that void came the need, right? The need, the ache for comfort. I need ease and comfort. I need something to make me feel like I'm alive. I need something to give me some sense of exhilaration, happiness. I need to fabricate the experience of love somehow. And I don't realize that this is what I'm doing, right? I only know this as a result of doing inventory and being in Alcoholics Anonymous and identifying with other people telling their story, right? I certainly didn't have this wisdom. I didn't know. But once you hear something that's a truth, it's settling in your soul, right? Even if it's ugly, you're like, ah. But it brings some satisfaction. Whereas when I keep an idea or theory stuck in my head, it runs endlessly. And no matter how brilliant it sounds, it's not satisfied. The truth is the only thing that brings me satisfaction. I learned that here by hearing other people tell their truth. So I can't figure it out by myself. But I certainly didn't know it then. And all I knew was I got to come up with a plan, and it's going to look like this. And we got to get here. It's got to go this way. And this is how it's going to feel at the end of that plan. And if I could get over there and I get to feel like this, then everything will be okay. And then I can be here with everyone else who already feels that way. So I got to manufacture and fabricate ease and comfort. I got to find a way to want to be here, right? Because that compulsion, right? Mental obsession, I learned coming to Alcoholics Anonymous, that I'm powerless over alcohol, which I'll come to tell. But that I'm powerless and that my life is unmanageable. And I was able to see when I was experiencing my first step with my sponsor and we turned statements into questions, that mental obsession for me was that was my ambition, period. That was my will to live. Mentally obsessed with myself. How am I going to feel better? And of course, the intelligence that it's an engine. It's just not powered by love. It's powered by doubt. It's powered by fear. But there's still intelligence to support the motor, the momentum. So here I have this fear, this separation, this emptiness. And then it's powered by that intelligence brings it forth. So I come up with all these ideas as to what I think I need and who I think I need to be, how it's supposed to feel, right? And it's all self-will and it's all driven by fear. It doesn't account for how other people feel, if I'm breaking the rules, if breaking the rules is bad for me, if there's consequences. Am I putting myself in a position to be hurt or harmed? It's not even a factor, right? Because I need to get to the end of my road. I need to get that ease and comfort, that obsession of figuring out, okay, well, it didn't work this way this time. This time I was a child in first grade. It didn't work this way. I got in trouble. I don't want to get this one in trouble. I got kicked out of school. I got kicked out of class. I got suspended in first grade, right? Even they're all my family and I'm still suspended, but I'm still a problem. So we got to make sure we've got to get away with it this way. And I got to switch the brand or the location or the personality or the defect or the false comfort that I give others, right? I gotta switch it around. I gotta mix up my manipulation to get to the same place, which is Lindsay needs to feel better. And so mental obsession ran my life. That was my will to live. That was my driving force. That's what propelled me to even try being in the world or being on the earth, right? So untreated alcoholism was my master long before I ever found a drink. And God bless all the people that had to put up with me for those, 6 years between when you're in first grade and when you're 12. And I finally started drinking because I was such a problem. I couldn't even imagine dealing with a kid like me. I don't even know what I would do. I was the worst kind of kid. I got kicked out of middle school. I wasn't even allowed in high school. I was on probation by the time I'm 12 years old. All because of my untreated alcoholism. I had not drank yet, right? But I needed to laugh ad infinitum. So I needed to, doesn't matter. I'll just prank call the whole United States. Doesn't matter that I'm harassing people. Doesn't matter what I'm saying to them. That these things are called hate crimes and harassment and, right? Because I don't know what my words are labeled as. And my alcoholic delusion, which ran with me throughout my alcoholism, was that, if I don't mean to cause a harm, then it doesn't count. It's not my intention. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm not walking up to an animal and kicking it, right? I don't mean to be causing you harm with what I'm just trying to make myself laugh. So the selfishness was so deep-rooted that my behavior, by default, is antisocial and sociopathic. I had an inability to genuinely think about how other people feel. Not because I didn't care about them, because I was somebody that had love and care for animals, for people, compassion. I never wanted to see other people get hurt. But when it came to my behavior, I lacked the perspective to see how do my actions impact others, good or bad. Because I couldn't see past my motive, I couldn't see past my feeling, and I couldn't see past the end result that I desperately needed. I needed ease and comfort to function, right? So I didn't have a choice. I was hurting you, whether we liked it or not. I was taking the consequence, whether I liked it or not. For me, I just didn't happen to care. So probation, here I come. Group home, here I come. JDC, in and out of my house, right? All these problems, my poor mother. I treated this woman horribly. Took her for granted. Didn't feel love a day in my life, right? How is my behavior matched the typical stereotypic alcoholic? And I'm 9, right? This is how we read about it to the wives, how alcoholic men or, the spouse treats their other spouse, their husband or their wife, and the behaviors of what that looks like. Or in the Jaywalker or in the book where it talks about the different types of alcoholics, right? And the mental pattern and the physical pattern, this is what I was embodying, and there wasn't even alcohol in the picture, and I've already can destroy my life and break the hearts of the people around me before I'm even drinking. Untreated alcoholism is a real thing. It is very real. And it is not something that I have the power to overcome on my own. Thank God, for a time, I then turned it on myself when I finally found a drink. And I no longer had to play all these games with entertaining myself and getting in trouble and blah, 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 right? I'm drinking every weekend. Well, as long as you look a certain way. And as long as you're regarded a certain way and have the respect of your fellows, it's not alcoholic, it's not disgusting, it's not unacceptable, right? So I didn't consider the fact that I never wanted to stop drinking once I started. I don't know who would. I can't even identify with having a feeling of ever wanting to actually stop drinking, right? Like, it doesn't even make sense to me. No, I want the euphoria. I want the ease and comfort. I want to feel good. I want a best friend that's inhuman, where I don't have to rely on what anybody else says or feels. My alcohol validated me, told me I looked good, told me everything was going to be okay, told me I don't have to be scared of anything, and just told me I looked good, looked really good doing it. That's what it told me, my best friend, so I didn't need anybody else. I didn't need to have true human connection. True human connection is based on true honesty. So alcohol made it real easy for me to never have to be honest, because that's not something I was capable of doing, right? That would mean I'd have to know what I needed to be honest about, and I knew nothing. I knew the need for ease and comfort. I knew mental obsession. And at that point, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, I started to learn physical craving. Because once I start, I can't stop. And then instead of looking at the fact that I can't stop, I just change the rules. Like, I have the nice car, and I have the nice clothes, and I have the boyfriend. So it's okay that I now took my weekend rule and brought it into Thursday night, or Sunday night, or wherever else I need to break the rule. I just make the rules change. I don't see myself differently, right? Eventually, I get married when I'm 19 years old, not because I was in love, not because I had a good relationship, because like I said, that would be contingent on actual honesty in my experience. Love does not exist without honesty. Obsession exists. I know how to make anything an obsession. Anything. I can make it my obsession. I can make it my higher power. I will detail my entire personality to conform to what I think it wants. Because I suffer from the delusion that if I could do that perfectly, I'll get that bang of ease and comfort that I'm looking for. I'll get a crack hit of ease and comfort based on my plans and designs. Right? Because that's what I think. I believed so much in my own thinking, so much in my own will. And my will is based on the world's rules, how people feel, what they want, manipulation, right? Like animal instinct. It's not based on anything deep within me. It's not based on truth or self. But I didn't know that, right? So I just say, well, it looks better if I get married than not get married and not go to college. Because everybody else goes to college like normal people. They aspire, they have dreams. You have to know yourself in order to have a dream and follow it. I didn't know anything. All I knew was fear. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? How am I going to make it in the world? I don't trust these people. I'm not like that. I couldn't face any of those feelings. So instead, I say, well, the last fist fight that we had, it really wasn't that bad. It's okay that my arm was broken. It was my fault. And the last time you cheated on me, well, I can forgive you because the Bible says that love doesn't take any record of harms. Right? And I'll use something spiritual and something beautiful to justify alcoholic thinking. Alcoholic thinking because it's rooted in fear. It's rooted in dishonesty. It doesn't matter what the language is. What are my actions really doing? They're saying, well, I'm just going to accept this versus face the unknown, because that would require actual faith that I did not have. So I get married to this person that we fist fight, and this is just the commonplace. We fist fight every weekend. The only time we get along is those 2 hours prior to the drink, or the 1 hour into the drink on a Friday, right? We're both going to do the same thing for the same reason. We're going to get together, we're going to drink, and it's going to be all right for about an hour before I get too drunk and I start throwing transformers at this individual. You know, those heavy things that you have to convert electricity to when you live in another country. They weigh like 80 pounds. You know? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And then I wake up and I'm like, oh, well, I didn't mean it. So therefore it doesn't count. Right? And that was a 3-year journey, right? That's how it started. That's how it ended. And it just progressed. And I came back here, again, thinking that, well, if I fix up the outside even more, the inside will get better. So I got to go to school. So I finally figure out how I got to go to school for something. My then husband goes to Iraq. I'm like, well, I can't cheat on him when he's in a war zone. He might die. That would be horrible. It's okay if I do drugs. Totally acceptable. Right? Drinking, putting me around other people makes me a little loose. It's very unpredictable. We all know this. But if I'm, eating all the pills and visiting the doctors and intoxicating myself, with alcohol in pill form or in powder form, that just seems more manageable. I could go to school that way and I don't have to hang out with men. Right? I still have a mental obsession that I can only quell with a substance. Right? That ease and comfort, that gnaw of restlessness, irritability, and discontentment would be right back. Right? That time in Germany was agonizing for me because I was only allowed to drink on the weekends. And all that time between Monday and Friday, I was completely miserable, wanted to rip my skin off, hated my life. I literally hated it. I would say this is like being in jail because I'm in another country where I can't go anywhere. I can't move around. Like I'm supposed to be a wife and I'm just like there. And I don't really want to be here, but I would wait to drink. And I came back here, long story short, the progression takes place and little by slowly, even though I'm going to school and I have a husband and I have my, physical appearance, I'm presenting well, right? I'm a good performer. Let's check all the boxes of society. This is how a woman's supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to do by this age. Let's win an Academy Award at, putting on a show. And yet, at no point did any of that stuff take away that restless, irritable discontent, or did it replace my need for ease and comfort? That's the only place that was my life. The need for ease and comfort. How are we getting there? And in between, some spells of rage for anybody that got in my way. Things progressed. I started to cross all these invisible lines. A lot of things I thought that could never happen to me because I'm too smart and I have too many rules and blah, blah, blah. Those things are only for like street people. And those things are only for like drug addicts. I'm not that, right? Those things are only for like criminals. I was absolutely a criminal. I just didn't think that I was a criminal. Somebody that takes money from a bank and that's not their check, their name is not on that check, and they do it over and over and over, that's criminal. But I just decided since, it looks better and nobody knows about it, it's not really a crime. Right? My mind. And I just continue to let this untreated alcoholism dictate to me, right? My attitudes, my actions, my behaviors, the things that I worshipped, the things that I sought after, who I thought I was and how I needed to feel. Alcoholism was my master. It was my higher power for a really long time. And I suffered from the delusion that it just worked. And of course, there's temporary moments of ease and comfort. But for me, I hear people share and say, if it didn't work for them, they would have never done it. And I identify with that. But for me, it was always pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization over and over again. Because once I crossed that line, and now I'm breaking the little values that I thought that I had, and now that I'm seeing my powerlessness, I'm seeing things fall through, the veil, the delusion of control fall through my hands. The lying to myself became harder. And then comes the guilt and the shame of wait a minute. We're off track. This isn't who I want to be. This isn't where I wanted to end up. How is this all happening? I thought we had a really good plan here. I thought things were going well. Why is this ache catching up with me? Why do I need more alcohol? More alcohol, more alcohol, more this, more that, more substance. Having one husband's just not enough. I need to have another one. You know what I mean? It can't just be a boyfriend. It needs to be a whole husband. I need full devotion and commitment from multiple people. If enough people love me, I'll feel better. I'll have power, right? Because that's what I want. I want power, and that hopelessness that just starts to build. That was always there. I just didn't know that, I didn't know I was running and trying to fix, manage, and control hopelessness since 5 years old. That feeling of hopelessness, emptiness, and being alone. But here it is catching up to me. right? Needing more. The stakes get higher. My rules get lowered. And all of a sudden, a couple years later, and I'm in a 4-block radius that I can't leave. I can't go 30 seconds without intoxicating myself, right? Just compulsively. I definitely can't have a conversation with anybody because they just remind me of who I'm not and the lies that I can no longer keep up with. And it's easier to just ignore everybody that I've ever interacted with. The husband, my mother, my family, whatever, right? And I don't come from a family where people are going to come out looking for me or people are going to force me to go to rehab. You're just on your own, And I was 23 years old and couldn't leave a 4-block radius. And, I don't always tell it, but I'll tell it now. They mention having a moment of clarity. Like we have that moment, because I'm not, it's a miracle that I even had the moment. Because what I'm telling you, once this brain gets locked in a delusion, there's nothing anybody could say to me to break it. It's just the way I'm wired, right? I don't know how to open my mind to suggestion. I don't possess that ability. But I no longer had anybody to lie to. And I was doing the same stuff, right? Telling myself, no, I'm not a junkie alcoholic in the street. I'm just hanging out. But after a couple days, a couple weeks of that, and there's nobody to lie to, there's nobody to tell the story to because no one else cares. And you're still just carrying this lie, and I'm carrying all my luggage and, right, wearing this fake fur coat, telling myself I look good as I stomp around for days at a time. And I was crossing the street, and this little kid, oh my God, it was like a laser. This little kid saw me, and his eyes, the power of innocence. I don't know what it was. It was as if God looked at me himself. And it's like I downloaded. It's like I could hear for the first time in my life, the power of that innocence. Because I was like, oh my God, for the rest of that child's life, he doesn't see all the things I thought I was, my list of intentions, my potential, my ambition, my talents. This child doesn't see all this stuff that I'm carrying around, lying to myself with. This child sees a white woman in an inner city area throwing up as she's crossing the street. And for the rest of that child's life, I just perpetuated a stereotype. And I felt like I harmed this little kid, right? Because I'm like, well, if I'm this way, then that means he should take the role of what the other people do in those areas. So I just harmed innocence. And I don't know, there was something about it that, I don't know how I got all that because I was so fogged, and Lord knows I didn't sleep, and I couldn't stop drinking, and I couldn't stop. And yet it pierced through and hit my soul. And I was like, oh my God, what he sees is what I am. And that moment of oh my God, this is literally what I am. This is what I am. And it crushed. It said, it melted the icy intellectual mountain whose shadow I shivered in for many years. It melted it for a second that I could finally see myself for what I was. And then I got scared. And then I was like, oh my God, I'm possessed by the devil. I am possessed by the devil. I didn't mean to end up here. I don't want to be homeless, right? I don't want to be walking around. What am I going to do with the next 20 years? I got to do this forever? What? I can't do it. I cannot do it. And knowing I come from a bloodline of alcoholics and addicts that used forever, right? They didn't stop. They didn't go to Alcoholics Anonymous. They didn't get struck by grace. They stayed like that forever. God bless my birth mother. She passed away, right? So I'm like, oh my God, this is my fate. This is it. I can't do this. I cannot do this. I'd rather die. And thus begins the praying. The true, first honest thing I've ever said in my life was, God, please take me. Please take me. And I remember I was looking, it was a full moon, and I just prayed because I was like, there's got to be a God if there's this power dominating me. And there's got to be a power dominating me because I'm a lunatic, And praying for God to kill me. Because I can't imagine. I've thought of every possible way to fix this existence. I've succeeded at everything that most people try to succeed at. making money, getting loved, getting married, having this, being, being, on some like high social platform, meeting famous people, being beautiful, right? I've succeeded in all this. It's just like, what else is there? How am I supposed to fix this? There can't be an answer. I can't go on. You have to take me. And it was honest, and there's been many times in my recovery where my most gut-wrenching honesty is not pretty. It's not cute. It doesn't sound like a prayer. And it's my experience that my personal God, does not care about the words I'm using. It's the quality and the content of my heart. Is it honest? Right? And like a trajectory, everything changed. And for me, that prayer to die turned into a set of coincidences that I cannot ever deny to be the work of a higher power intervening in my life. 150%. Because all of a sudden, where I couldn't catch a break to save my life, all of a sudden it was just like one interaction that brought me to another interaction that brought me, it was like watching a movie. And I ended up at the hospital for the last time, and I didn't go in there saying I was willing to go to any lengths because I didn't know what that meant. But I had that broken heart and that surrender of I can't do this anymore. And without me knowing what was happening to me, it happened anyway, right? And I went into the hospital because I wanted to go to sleep. And I woke up on my knees praying again. So that same void, ease and comfort, desperation, hopelessness. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? Now I have a reason to be worried because I have a lot of warrants and I have a lot of problems and I have no family and not one person on the earth. My husband won't have anything to do with me, right? And I have the clothes that I've had on for 2 months. This is the only possession I have in the world, the clothes that I have on. And I peed in them outside. Not when I was coming in and out of the hospital. I mean, what else do alcoholics do? Pee on yourself. So what you do, right? And they said, there was a meeting, and I make a meeting. I remember the speaker just saying, make a meeting, make a meeting, make a meeting. And all I know is I was willing to make a meeting, didn't know how I was going to get there, didn't know what that looked like. I'm not the kind of person that asks for help. I don't have the power to ask for help, right? Thank God this program does not depend on me necessarily asking for help as much as it depends on practicing a 12-step and people giving me free service. Free service in spite of how I looked, how I sounded. If I said, I know, right? Because that's what I did. People ask me, do you know who Bill and Bob are? Yeah. Do you know what this and that is? Yeah. Because that's what I know how to do, is put on a performance and put on a show. But in spite of how I behaved as a newcomer who's powerless, people were of service to me anyway. They picked me up, they took me to meetings. They gave me their number. They answered the phone when I called them. They listened when I went on incessantly about God knows what, right? They remembered my name when I came back. They shook my hand even though my hand was dirty and my nails were broken and I probably smelled, right? And they let me back in their car again the next week. And they loved me, right? That consistent demonstration of service in spite of me was power. Stepping into a meeting, right? I wound up leaving that hospital. Coincidences brought me to a rooming house. I met a girl there that was a member of what is now my home group. It has been my home group for 15 years. She became my best friend. She was my 90-day rehab. She took me to meetings every day. She told me what a home group was. She told me what a sponsor is. I don't really know how well I listened. But she said, just pick your favorite meeting. And that happened to be my home group, where I heard the message carried that alcoholism is what you suffer from when you're not drinking. Because I'm thinking alcohol, I don't even know. Am I an alcoholic? Am I crazy? Am I demonically possessed? I don't know I'm just saying all right, yeah, I'm an alcoholic. It wasn't until I sat down and really turned statements from this book that I previously judged, right? Because I'm 1939, what am I going to have? I don't have anything in common with this old white guy, right? This was my thinking. But my sponsor, it came to life when I read it with a sponsor who had experienced a psychic change as a result of going through it. Then somehow those questions, those statements that we turn into questions, each one of them got my spirit to talk, started to dig me up. I couldn't answer them with my mind. Most of them are yes or no. Can you stop drinking once you start? No. Can you determine how long it's going to be before you pick back up again? No. Mike, did your experience show you that? You have evidence? Clear-cut, concrete evidence? Yeah. Okay. Is your mind restless, irritable, discontent, insane when you're not intoxicated or drunk? Definitely. Does this show up in every relationship you've ever had? Yes. Are you humiliated most of the time because of that? Yes. Do you hurt people and not realize it until like 5 years after it happened, right? Going through all this first step, second step, third step, experiencing these, confronting myself with these questions, with this guidance, with these directions, right? And I was told, put your recovery first and everything will fall into place. How am I paying my rent? I don't know. God will take care of it. How am I going to eat? I don't know. God will take care of it. Put the outcome in God's hands, right? That's what I was told. That's what the people in my home group would tell me. So, okay, I have to be a greeter. Willing to do what I don't want to do. I don't look good enough to be a greeter. I don't smell good enough. I'm not girly enough. I don't have any money to get new clothes. Right? These are the things I value. This is what really mattered to me. I would get anxiety, the thought of people seeing me look bad, as if anybody else cares. Right? And I did it anyway, because I was told this is part of the directions. You get a home group, you get a commitment. Period. End of story. Here's the commitment you're given. Now show up and do it. Are you willing enough to do that? Does your life depend on taking direction here? I was clear that it did. It's this or possession and methadone line, 50 years in the street. So I was 23 when I got here. I could be alive for a long time running that gamut. Death would have been a blessing, but the devil would have taken me the other way. Sitting down with that sponsor, going through the steps week after week, right? Showing up, going to business meetings, not knowing what they meant, but going because my sponsor went, right? Learning and experiencing how powerful this thing called unity is long before I could talk about it. All I knew is that when I was in a meeting, my head was a little less quiet than when it was when I was by myself. When I was in a meeting, I knew for the first time in my life, you're finally where you're supposed to be. I don't know where I'm going, but this is where it's supposed to start. And that feels like safety for me. I never felt that anywhere. I never felt that behind any accomplishment I've ever gotten by myself, right? And when I was in a meeting, that night, I wouldn't have drunk dreams. That was enough to go to another meeting, right? And one day after another, of a sudden, we're coming to 90 days. And I'm like, this is freaking what? What? Like 90 days of me not drinking, not using anything else, not taking a Xanax, not going to the doctor and manipulating a prescription that I certainly can get away with being prescribed, right? Not taking diet pills or caffeine pills because now I've gained 60 pounds, right? 90 days of not managing my life on my will. That's literally miraculous. Miraculous. Because it's all I'd ever been trying to do my entire life. Was affect some sort of manageability, satisfaction, and happiness, right? Happiness out of this world if I only managed well. And all of a sudden, 90 days later, I'm not caught up in any sick cycle. I'm not in that relationship with my husband anymore. I'm not talking to him. I'm allowing it to be what it is. I'm more committed to my sponsor. I'm more committed to my home group. I'm more committed to waking up and praying on a daily basis. And little by slowly, I'm watching these little miracles fall into place. That the money comes exactly when the bills need to be paid. That I get food exactly when I'm hungry. That all of a sudden I get a job opportunity, something that I can manage at that point in my sobriety. Right? And that it brings me to a whole nother, right? The road just shows itself. And all I have to do is keep on walking. That's my only job. How life presents is not my business. It's my business how I'm showing up for what to put in front of me. Right? So eventually I write this long fourth step. I come from a lineage, a school of thought of, a very thorough and honest fourth step. I needed every direction that was given to me. Every direction. Because I'm so sick. If somebody was like, oh, well, what is your self-esteem? I would have been like, Freud, textbook answer, regurgitate, right? Right? What do you think your pride is? Biblical answer, regurgitate. I was filled with, this brain can carry a lot. None of it means anything. It means nothing. I had no idea what these things meant. I certainly didn't know what they meant for me. So I needed to follow a specific set of directions of exactly how to answer what is my self-esteem, how is it affected specifically with this person, with that situation, with this situation. I never learned, Lindsay, right? Writing my fourth step allowed me to finally start to learn, like, how do I even tick? What goes on with me? That I have fear. I didn't think I had fear. I didn't know what that felt like because I was so detached from it. Just because you're detached from something doesn't mean that it's not there, right? I'm a human. There's gravity. I'm subjected to gravity. I'm a human. There's fear. I'm subjected to fear. It's not really my opinion to decide if I have it. I have it. It's just how awake am I to see it, and looking at that ugliness and getting through that fourth step, and powerful, monumental, life-changing experience for me. Best thing I've ever done in my life. We commence, it says in 4, men of faith have courage. And I ask God, I'm here to play the role that God assigns. And at once, I outgrow fear. And I had to see exactly what that was and what it wasn't. Basically, everything I've ever, lived up to was given by my brain, my self-will, right? And this fourth step introduced me to what my higher power really, what I believe my higher power really wants from me. And that in the experience, strength, and hope of others, demonstrating it, me witnessing it on a daily basis. Getting to 9, being told once again, people did not sugarcoat it for me at all. And thank God. My life depends on every one of those amends. I do not get to decide that I am others and I'm going to be harmed, right? I've had amends where 9.5 out of 10 people, any logical, non-AA person, no, Lindsay, that amends is going to put you in danger. You can't make that amends, right? Well, I owe $10,000 to this person that I robbed, and he's on drugs, and he knows where I live, and ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Powerful, he can hurt me, right? Most people are going to say, no, you can't make that amends. It's going to hurt you. Don't put yourself around somebody who does drugs or alcohol. That's going to hurt you. Well, you don't have that money right now. That's kind of irrational to offer somebody $10,000 when you don't have any money, right? But not my sponsor and not the people in my home group that said, how much are you willing to pay for your sobriety? Because it says you do this to stay sober or you risk drinking again. And that's it. That's it. The rest is none of my business, right? And I proceeded to make that amends with many others. Like, that was the one that was really scary for me. And of course, God in his glory put me in a position where I had a job that allowed me to pay off every stitch of that amends, along with all the other amendes that I owed, right? And I'm just clear. It's just everything is given. And I have to do the right thing with it. I have to apply my life through spiritual principles, right? The trials and the victories. I try to live through spiritual principles to the best of my ability. It's the only thing I trust. And for me, it's the only thing that works. I don't care about all the rest of it. It's not my business. My life, I look at it like it's not my business. I got pregnant. I wasn't expecting it. But I'm like, well, it's just perfect God fashion. Here's something that you don't expect, right? That you don't know how to do. Now have courage, have faith, step into the unknown, and trust me, right? Live through the principles of this program. Continue to apply your fears, your selfishness, your dishonesty, your self-seeking through an inventory on a daily basis. Continue to offer your heart to God, asking for his power to help you to change on a daily basis, and continue to carry the message, whether you feel like it or not. And all of a sudden, you'll be able to outgrow fear and step into the position of doing something you're not able to do on your own. And this is my experience over and over and over again. So like today, and I'm going to wrap it up. 15 years later, I do the same stuff I did when I got here. I go to the same home group. I attend business meetings. I take commitments. I'm blessed and fortunate that my life is Alcoholics Anonymous everywhere. So it's just like commonplace to talk about my fears, talk about my feelings, have a 10th step, right? Anybody that asks me to sponsor them or that comes within my life, like we write inventory. Like there's no middle way around it. Like I write out, the fears, the ugliness, the interpretations. I can't trust this brain to do it for me, right? I need factual evidence. And, I always say that my relationship with God is measurable. How am I doing? How's my sobriety? It's measurable. That means, what actions did I take today for my sobriety? Did I pray this morning? Did I, whatever, seek to help someone? Was I of service today? If something came up, did I talk about it? When's the last time I did an inventory? Do I owe any amends? Right? Where do I owe corrective measures? Right? Because that word amends can seem so severe. Like, well, did I slap anybody? No. Oh, I don't owe an amends. No, what corrective measures require my will, my discipline, my prayer? Because I got to keep growing toward this power. But it's beautiful to not have to live as a sociopath anymore. It's beautiful to be able to live with a sixth sense, like it says in the 11th step, that voice, right? It used to be alcohol that was my best friend. Now it's that intuition and that God-centeredness that is my best friend. It is the one thing I cannot live without. I don't care who has to come, who has to go, what life has to look like. I can't live without that, right? Because it's proven to be reliable, dependable, real, and, above all things, I was promised that the obsession to drink would be removed, that I could go anywhere on earth, and as a free man may go, and without the thought or obsession to drink. And that is 100% absolutely my experience. I do not, no matter what I face, and I've faced a lot. I faced a sick father in the nursing homes for 5 years, fighting with them, suing me $300,000, right? A man that blamed me. I've faced alcoholics that I can't help, that are harmful, right? I've faced a lot. Never did I face those things wanting to drink, ever. I faced those things asking myself, how can I get closer to the power? How can I turn this into a victory? So a blessed and grateful. Here we are in our journey, right? Just intermingling with each other, one season at a time, one problem at a time, one day at a time, to practice this stuff and be free. So thank you for letting me share.